I never imagined I'd be standing in the middle of my parents' living room, holding a folder filled with bank statements and legal documents, ready to confront the people I once trusted most. But here I was, heart pounding, hands trembling, about to expose the sister who had manipulated my parents into stealing from me. It wasn't just money, it was years of hard work, sacrifice, and dreams that she had taken without a second thought. It all started when I was 22. Fresh out of college and working 2 jobs to pay off student loans. My parents weren't wealthy, but they always made sure we had what we needed. That changed when my younger sister Evelyn turned 18. Suddenly, everything revolved around her. She wanted private art lessons, expensive materials for her passion projects, and trips abroad to find inspiration. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was the baby of the family after all, and everyone doted on her. But then the requests became demands, and my parents started dipping into my savings account to fund her extravagant lifestyle. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding. When I noticed withdrawals from my account that I hadn't authorized, I confronted them. "Why is money missing from my savings?" I asked, showing them the bank statements. "It's temporary," my mother said dismissively. "Evelyn needs it more than you do right now." "More than me?" I shot back, incredulous. "I've been busting my ass to save for a future, and you're giving it to her for what? A trip to Paris?" My father chimed in, his tone sharp. "You'll understand someday. Evelyn has potential. We're investing in her future." Investing in her future? What about mine? The betrayal cut deep, but I told myself it was temporary. They'd come to their senses eventually. Instead, the withdrawals continued, draining my account until there was almost nothing left. By the time I realized what was happening, I was forced to move out of my apartment because I couldn't afford rent anymore. I crashed on friends' couches, working overtime at both jobs just to survive. Meanwhile, Evelyn lived comfortably at home, enjoying the fruits of my labor. For years, I avoided my family. Every attempt to reach out ended in arguments or excuses. Evelyn acted like she didn't know anything about the theft, while my parents refused to acknowledge the damage they'd caused. The resentment festered inside me, growing darker with each passing day. I built a new life for myself, one without them, focusing on my career and finding solace in independence. But the anger never fully went away. Then came the invitation to Evelyn's gallery opening, a grand event celebrating her rise as an artist. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her bask in the success she'd stolen from me. But another part, the part that still clung to hope, wanted answers. So I RSVP'd yes, determined to confront her in front of everyone. The night of the gallery opening arrived, and I walked in feeling like an outsider. The room buzzed with laughter and applause as guests admired Evelyn's artwork. She stood in the center of it all, glowing under the spotlight, accepting compliments with practiced grace. My parents hovered nearby, beaming with pride. Watching them together felt like salt in an open wound. When Evelyn spotted me, her smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "You came," she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. "I'm so glad you're here." I forced a smile, though my jaw clenched beneath the surface. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied coolly. As the evening wore on, I waited for the perfect moment to strike. When Evelyn took the microphone to give a speech, thanking everyone for supporting her journey, I knew it was time. I stepped forward, clearing my throat loudly enough to draw attention. "Actually," I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me, "there's something important I need to say." The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward me. Evelyn froze, her expression shifting from confusion to panic. My parents exchanged uneasy glances, sensing trouble. "I'm proud of you, Evelyn," I continued, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "You've truly become the artist you always dreamed of being. But let's talk about how you got here, shall we?" I opened the folder in my hands, pulling out copies of bank statements and withdrawal records. These are transactions from my savings account over the past 5 years. Notice anything familiar? Oh, that's right. They match the dates of your investments. Private lessons, art supplies, travel expenses, all funded by me, without my permission. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Evelyn's face turned pale. "That's not true," she protested weakly. "I didn't know anything about that." "Oh, really?" I countered, raising an eyebrow. Then why did you convince Mom and Dad to kick me out when I questioned where my money was going? Why did you act like I was the problem instead of owning up to what you'd done?" Her silence spoke volumes. Tears welled in her eyes as the weight of her guilt became undeniable. My parents looked horrified, realizing too late the extent of the damage they'd caused. "You used me," I said, my voice breaking with emotion. "You manipulated them into taking everything I worked for, and you didn't even care how it destroyed me. Do you have any idea what it's like to lose your home, your dreams, your trust, all because of someone who's supposed to love you?" Evelyn collapsed into tears, unable to defend herself. My mother stepped forward, her own tears streaming down her face. "We were wrong," she admitted, her voice trembling. "We let her convince us that this was the right thing to do. We should have listened to you." Her apology didn't erase the pain, but it was a start. For the first time in years, I saw genuine remorse in their eyes. As the crowd dispersed, leaving Evelyn humiliated and exposed, I felt a strange sense of relief. Exposing the truth hadn't fixed everything, but it had given me back a piece of myself. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn reached out repeatedly, begging for forgiveness. At first, I ignored her calls and messages, unwilling to forgive so easily. But eventually curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet her for coffee. She looked different, smaller, more vulnerable. Gone was the confident artist who had basked in the spotlight. In her place was a woman burdened by regret. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I was selfish and blind, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to make things right." Her words tugged at something buried deep within me. Forgiveness isn't easy, especially when the wounds run so deep. But seeing her stripped of arrogance and pretense made me wonder if change was possible. Over time, we began rebuilding our relationship, one tentative conversation at a time. She started paying back the money she owed, taking on odd jobs to contribute. Slowly, painfully, trust began to form again. As for my parents, our relationship remained complicated. They apologized repeatedly, but the scars of their betrayal lingered. Still, we found ways to reconnect, sharing quiet moments that reminded me of happier times. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Looking back now, I realize that exposing Evelyn wasn't just about justice. It was about reclaiming my voice. For years, I'd carried the weight of their actions in silence, letting bitterness consume me. Speaking the truth freed me from that burden, allowing me to move forward with clarity and purpose. Life doesn't offer neat endings, no matter how much we crave them. Some wounds may never fully heal, and some relationships may never return to what they once were. But amidst the chaos and pain, there's always a chance for redemption, if we're willing to fight for it. In the end, Evelyn didn't just take from me. She gave me an opportunity to rediscover my strength. And while I'll never forget what she did, I've learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to rise above the past and create something new.